Why is it gone? When I returned from a family trip, my luxury watch was missing. Alan, someone broke into our house. Need to call the police.
No, stop. Actually, I let my mom use the house.
Huh? But I already called the police. My name is Meg. I'm a 33-year-old web designer. I've been married to Alan for 2 years. We met through a matchmaking party. I was in a state of heartbreak after breaking up with my longtime boyfriend, and my friend set up the party to cheer me up. That's where I happened to meet Alan. He had a refreshing and kind aura, and he was easy to talk to. However, at first, I wasn't ready for another romance, but rather like making a new male friend. After that, we exchanged contact information and started going out for drinks after work. Even though I wasn't particularly looking for a romance relationship, he regularly invited me out for drinks and meals. He told me to take my time and wait until I felt ready. With him approaching me like that, I started to become interested in him. As I became more conscious of it, I started to like him more and more. And then, he confessed his feelings to me, and we started dating. We continued our relationship, got married after a year, and now, after several years, we're still deeply in love. I never expected to meet my soulmate like this. Our life together has been incredibly enjoyable. However, there is a slight dissatisfaction even in my life with my beloved husband. It's about my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law dotes on my husband, her only son. Moreover, I was heavily disliked by my mother-in-law during the marriage introduction. So, you deceived Alan, huh? I can't believe he fell for such a plain and ordinary-looking girl. My mother-in-law said those words directly to me. At that moment, my husband happened to be in the restroom, and she took the opportunity to approach me when we were alone. I didn't know what to do, and could only bow my head in response. I remember my mother-in-law looking at me with a triumphant expression and laughing. Unfortunately, my father-in-law had an urgent work commitment and couldn't be present during the marriage introduction. I met him for the first time during the meeting of both families, and he treated me kindly, which made me feel relieved. So, my concern was only with my mother-in-law. She is a troublesome person who often comes to our house unannounced, and she complains about various aspects of my housework. Meg, your room is so messy. Huh? Why are you opening my room? What's the matter? As a mother-in-law, I have to make sure my daughter-in-law keeps the entire house clean, don't I? Saying that, my mother-in-law started investigating various places in the house without listening to me when I tried to stop her. Just as I thought. Even the closet is dirty. Please, stop it. Even though I married Alan and became a family, we have boundaries. Please don't enter my room without permission. When I said that, my mother-in-law widened her eyes and got angry. You are so rude, Meg, with no common sense. You must not have received enough education from your parents. She not only said those things about me, but also belittled my parents. Who lacks common sense here? What did you say? Are you mocking me? Alan really married a terrible wife. I think I ended up with an awful mother-in-law. Moreover, my mother-in-law targets moments when my husband is not around to come and bully me. She's truly malicious. And when my husband returns, she changes her attitude and puts on a smiling face. Welcome back, Alan. Oh, Mom, you're here. I've been waiting for you. Let's have dinner together tonight. I'll cook. Saying that, my mother-in-law happily starts preparing the meal. Your cooking is delicious, Mom. Can't wait. Today it's your favorite Indian curry, Alan. Really? What you thinking I wanted to have curry? You're the best, Mom. Well, that's Mother's intuition. In such a pleasant atmosphere, the two chat cheerfully. Having witnessed her drastic change and heard the horrible things she said, I feel a sense of madness in my mother-in-law's duplicity. And her bullying escalated even further at that moment. Well, it's ready. Shall we dig in right away? Saying that, my mother-in-law served the curry in front of us. Yum. It's been a while since I had it, but it's still great. Is that so? Thank you, honey. Then I took a bite as well. The curry my mother-in-law made was incredibly spicy. Meg, I didn't think it's that spicy. Yeah, it's quite spicy for me. I wondered how both my husband and mother-in-law could easily eat this spicy curry. Oh dear, Meg. You're really sensitive, aren't you? I don't remember making it that spicy, though. Could it be that this mother and son have unusual taste buds? While thinking about that, I preserved and finished eating the curry. By the time I finished, sweat was pouring down my face. Meg, you're sweating a lot. Well, it was spicy. Meg, maybe you don't exercise regularly. You must be getting rid of all the toxins in your body, I'm sure. My mother-in-law continued saying such things, but my tongue was stinging so much that I couldn't hear her words. And after my mother-in-law left, I noticed something when I looked inside the kitchen cabinet. The bottle of cayenne pepper, which we rarely used, was significantly depleted. At that moment, I understood everything. It was the doing of my mother-in-law. In other words, she had deliberately added a large amount of cayenne pepper only to my curry. I was both astonished and filled with anger. When harassment reaches this level, I can't stay silent. From then on, I made sure that my mother-in-law wouldn't cook whenever she visits our house. Instead, she became extremely cautious about the food I prepare. But I wouldn't stoop such childish behavior. I would never lower myself to her level. Nevertheless, I always remained cautious around her. So, even when I was asked to have meals at my in-laws' house, I found excuses not to go. My mother-in-law seemed quite frustrated when things didn't go her way. But I had the upper hand. I had made sure to keep my distance from her. Continuing with that lifestyle, the stress related to my mother-in-law significantly decreased. However, one day, my husband said something to me. Meg, do you dislike my parents? Huh? My mom mentioned that you avoid her and don't communicate much. Now that I think about it, you haven't visited my parents' house in a while, right? Do you not get along with my parents? I felt troubled when my husband said that to me. But now is the time. I should be clear about it. Actually, Ellen, your mother has been harassing me. Harassing? Yeah. She would say terrible things when you weren't around. Do you remember when I said your mother's curry was super spicy? After that, when I checked the cabinet, the cayenne pepper, which shouldn't have been used that much, was more than half empty. She added an enormous amount of cayenne pepper only to my curry. That's why I became afraid of eating your mom's cooking. And that's why I couldn't bring myself to visit your parents' house. I'm sorry for keeping silent about it all this time. I thought my husband would understand, so I gathered my courage and spoke up. But my husband's reaction wasn't what I expected. Meg, are you serious about what you're saying? My mom wouldn't do something like that. It's just too extreme. Ellen? Wait a minute, please. Meg, it's all your imagination. Your delusion. My mom wouldn't do such childish things. Yet, you're avoiding her and casting doubts without any reason. My husband didn't pay any attention to my words. Since then, our relationship gradually became strained. Our conversations decreased, and we had more awkward days together. It seems my husband increased his overtime hours. Lately, he always comes home late, and he started going on business trips more frequently. Having more alone time at home was somewhat appreciated, but it also made me feel lonely. In the midst of all this, my parents invited me on a family trip. You seem down recently, and it's been a while since we had a family trip, right? Yeah, good idea. So I decided to go on a weekend family trip. It was awkward, but I informed my husband about it. Hey, I'm going on a trip with my parents next weekend. That's fine. I actually have a business trip scheduled. So, don't worry about it. With that, the conversation between my husband and me came to an end. How did things end up like this? Feeling shocked, I decided to refresh myself for now by going on a trip. It was, indeed, really refreshing and fun. It helped relieve some of the stress that I had built up, both mentally and physically. It was Sunday, and my husband was still in the middle of his week-long business trip. He was set to return tomorrow, so I planned to have a proper discussion with him once he was back. Continuing this awkward relationship wasn't good for either of us. With that in mind, I unlocked the door to our home. As I entered my room, I immediately sensed that something was off. It was different from when I had left the house. There were subtle changes in the arrangement of things. I meticulously searched every corner of the room. The clothes hanging in the closet were in different positions. Furthermore, the drawers were in disarray. And most importantly, something very precious to me was missing. Huh? Why? It's gone. I instantly panicked. My watch was missing. When I got promoted at the age of 28, I treated myself with an $8,000 watch. I only use it on formal occasions like someone's wedding or work-related parties, and I cherished it dearly. I kept it in a box inside a drawer, and now it was gone. I thought it was a thief. As I entered the living room, again, I had a feeling that something was off. I immediately called my husband. Alan, someone broke into our house. What? My watch is missing. What? What about my stuff? I'll check it right away, but... Okay, I'll be back right away. After that, I hung up the phone. I immediately searched my husband's room, but there were no sign of it being ransacked. Then, by chance, I found something strange. It was a cute and stylish small paper bag. The bag was in a drawer in my husband's room. It seemed like a gift. Could it be for our anniversary coming up soon? Is he planning to give me something nice? But in the next moment, I was speechless. The name on the card wasn't mine. It was addressed to Lisa. What the heck? I opened the letter with trembling hands and read it. Inside, my husband was expressing love to that Lisa girl. Instinctively, I took a photo of it. Then I opened the gift and checked inside. It was an expensive-looking ring. The ring was significantly smaller than my size. And then, I became calm and realized something. My husband was supposed to be on a business trip to another city. Yeah, he said he would come here right away. He even mentioned that he would arrive in about 30 minutes. If he was on a business trip, it would take at least a few hours. So he lied about the business trip and it's somewhere near our house. In other words, this indicates that my husband is having an affair. I can't trust him. I have to handle this sparkly incident on my own. As I was preparing myself, my husband returned in a flustered state. Meg, what's the situation? Were any of my stuff stolen? No, I don't think so. But my expensive watch was stolen. What? Look, there are subtle signs of disturbance only in my room. And there are traces in the living room and kitchen, as if someone used them. We need to report this immediately. When I said that, my husband's face froze, and he tried to stop me. No, stop. What?
Oh, well, I let my mother use the house while both you and I were away.
What? What do you mean?
I told her she could use it with a spare key.
What? I never agreed to that. Why would you do such a thing without asking?
Well, she said she wanted to clean the house.
What? The house isn't even clean. It's messier. Besides, my expensive watch is missing.
I don't know about that.
Fine, call her here then.
Fine.
My husband called his mother. Since my in-laws' house was close by, my mother-in-law arrived promptly. Oh my, what's the matter? Why such a stern face? Hey, did you steal my watch?
What? The watch? What are you talking about?
My direct question caught her off guard for a moment. At this point, she was already looking suspicious.
See? Mom knows nothing about it.
Stop doubting her like that. Are you accusing me of being a thief?
Oh my, that's terrible. It's so unfair.
My mother-in-law, thinking that my husband was on her side, became brazen and said such things. But I couldn't back down. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize, of course. But be prepared if it turns out you're the thief.
I'm telling you, I didn't do it. Yeah, besides, how are you going to prove anything?
We'll have the police investigate. That's what we'll do.
Police? Come on, Meg. There's no need to involve the police in this.
But I've already called them, Alan. They should be arriving soon, you know. When I said that, my mother-in-law's face turned pale all of a sudden. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived. That's when my mother-in-law fell into the pit of hell. I explained the situation to the police. Well, then we'll have to file a report and find the culprit, won't we? I said that, deliberately fueling my mother-in-law's anxiety. Maybe it's been sold at the pawn shop or something. Can you check all the pawn shops in town? When I said that to the police, my mother-in-law let out a visibly shaken voice. Of course, the police didn't miss that.
Yes, let's search all the pawn shops and review the footage from security cameras.
Finally, my mother-in-law gave in.
I needed the money. Besides, Meg here always pisses me off. Mom, how could you?
My husband was shocked to learn that his mother was the culprit. Based on her testimony, we went to the pawn shop with the police. Fortunately, my watch hadn't been sold to anyone. I was relieved to have my watch back. Now, it's time for some retribution against my foolish mother-in-law and husband. A few weeks later, my mother-in-law was abandoned by her husband, who had grown tired of her because of this theft incident. Relatives and people from the neighborhood recognized her as a thief, and she was completely ostracized. I made my mother-in-law pay me $5,000 as a settlement for the theft. As for my husband, I took my time. After obtaining evidence of his affair using a private investigator, I confronted him with a divorce. He never expected to be caught. With the divorce and alimony demands, he went pale and collapsed to his knees. The divorce was finalized, and I received alimony not only from my ex-husband but also from his affair partner. My ex-husband tried to be with his affair partner, but my ex-mother-in-law moved in with them, causing the affair partner to become disgusted and flee. Either way, they seem to be living in extreme poverty. On the other hand, I returned to my parents' home and lived peacefully with them, while focusing on my work. I concentrate on my work and strive for success without any romance for a while.
She's pregnant. I'm gonna marry her. So divorce me.
my husband brought his mistress to our house and said such things. But there was no way I would let them have their way. I resisted. Huh? Divorce? Not happening. Huh? Did you think I would just quietly step aside? It's a shame things didn't go according to your plan. As I watched the two of them turn pale, I burst into laughter. My name is Lauren, a 38-year-old housewife. I'm currently in a relationship with a man named Sean. We met through work, as our companies were business partners. At first, it was a professional relationship, but one day he asked me out for a meal. From there, we started to see each other as potential romantic partners. We later discovered that we were the same age and even went to the same university. Knowing that we had attended the same campus around the same time felt strangely serendipitous. After that, he regularly invited me out on dates and meals. After a few dates, we officially became a couple. It has been about 2 years since we started dating, and I find myself falling more and more in love with him. I even started to consider the possibility of marrying him. And then, out of the blue, he proposed to me. Lauren, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So, will you marry me? Saying that, he handed me an engagement ring. I was overjoyed to marry the man I loved. After completing the formalities of meeting each other's families and having a wedding ceremony, we started our married life smoothly. Since I was told that I should focus on being a housemaker after marriage, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. As a full-time housewife, I was determined to excel in housework, so I studied by watching various websites and videos. Thanks to that, I became very knowledgeable about cleaning methods, useful gadgets, and even cooking recipes. Since I cook different dishes every day, my husband is very satisfied. This stuffed bell pepper is incredibly delicious. This sauce is amazing. Right? I thought you would like it, Sean. Seeing my husband eating happily with a smile on his face makes me incredibly happy. Every day, I think about new menus, hoping to see that smile again. And on weekends, we go on drives or hikes together, enjoying our times together. My husband works hard and earns a good income, so even as a full-time housewife, I can live comfortably. And before we knew it, 3 years had passed since we got married. Even now, we mostly have happy days, but there was one concern. Recently, my husband's business trips have increased. He seems to be entrusted with more business trips because he is good at his job. He has at least 3 business trips per month. And when he goes on a trip, he doesn't come home for several days. Living alone with my husband, I have to spend lonely days in an empty house. Honestly, it's boring without my husband. I feel lonely and I lose motivation to cook and clean. But I can't complain because my husband's increasing business trips are due to expectations from his superiors. Besides, as a full-time housewife who relies on my husband's income, I should be grateful that his work is increasing. While convincing myself with these thoughts, I went to bed early and fell asleep. Babe, I'm home. Hi, honey. Good to have you back. Here, I got your souvenir. Thank you. It looks delicious. Whenever he returns from a business trip, he always brings me souvenirs. I brewed some tea. Delighted to see my husband after several days. This has become a common routine lately. I'm like a dog wagging his tail, excited when my husband comes home. But unexpectedly, my husband's business trip increased even more. It was very lonely, not being able to go out with him on weekends. However, something joyful happened amidst of all this. Huh, pregnant? Today I went to the doctor. They confirmed that I'm pregnant. Yes, I found out that I'm pregnant. Whoa, I'm gonna be a dad. My husband was overjoyed, and that made me incredibly happy. We can work together as a couple to build a good family. I was filled with excitement and anticipation. However, even after the pregnancy was confirmed, my husband's business trips continued as usual. Since I was pregnant, I wished he could at least support me at home on weekends. And even during weekdays, when he was away on business trip, I was alone at home. Although my belly wasn't big yet, I couldn't help but feel anxious about being alone if something happened. Thank you for coming all the way here. It's fine. I'm a full-time housewife, so I have free time. My mother-in-law came to our house and supported me when my husband was on business trips. Having her with childbirth experience and excellent housekeeping skills by my side was very reassuring. My parents live in a different state, and it's not easy for them to come and go easily. That's why I'm truly grateful to my mother-in-law. I'll help you and make sure you can have a peaceful time until the delivery. That will be a good help. Thank you so much. I was happy that my in-laws were so kind. I often hear stories about conflicts between daughter-in-law and mother-in-law, but I didn't have any of those issues. Time passed, and I finally gave birth. A beautiful baby girl came into this world, and she was incredibly adorable. Well, here she is. Oh, she's so cute. Good job, Lauren. Yeah, she's a baby. My husband was also delighted by our daughter's birth. We both decided to do our best in raising our child. But sadly, after that, my husband's business trips continued, and he was often away from home. As a first-time parent, I felt extremely anxious without my husband nearby. Recognizing my anxiety, my mother-in-law came to my aid once again. Normally, when a baby is born, I think the company should consider various things. She spoke up, supporting me. Her presence had become a significant support for me. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to remain as calm as I did. I think I would have been overwhelmed by anxiety and taken it out on my husband. But even with my mother-in-law's support, my frustration towards my husband continued to grow. And then, there was a moment when I couldn't hold back any longer, and I erupted. I have a business trip scheduled for about 4 days, starting next Thursday. I think that conversation was the trigger. Again? Why do you have so many business trips? I suddenly raised my voice, surprising my husband. What? It's work. There's nothing I can do about it. My husband responded, looking annoyed by my remark. It was a shock for me that he wore such an exasperated expression when I wanted us to have more time together as a couple. And amidst all that, I saw something I never expected. It happened while my husband was in the bath. Usually, he would take his phone with him to the changing room, but that day, his phone was left in the living room. As I gazed at my husband's phone, a message from an unknown person suddenly appeared on the screen. I couldn't help but look at it, and it made me uneasy. There, the name Hazel appeared, someone I didn't recognize. Could this possibly... I had a very unpleasant feeling. When my husband finished his bath and came out, I immediately moved away from the phone. In a rush, my husband grabbed his phone and went back to the washroom to dry his hair. It was suspicious because it had never happened before. With my husband bringing up the business trip, I finally decided to investigate him. I hired a PI, and what I discovered was unbelievable. It seemed that my husband was having an affair during his business trips. The other person was a woman living in a different region, and she seemed considerably younger. I was shocked to learn that my husband had developed a relationship with someone else while he had our little child here. How could he betray us like this? I felt disillusioned with my husband all at once. Lauren? Are you feeling unwell? You look pale. In front of my kind-hearted mother-in-law, I couldn't help but burst into tears. What's wrong? Startled, my mother-in-law stammered as I tried to explain. Her face quickly turned red, and she seemed angry.
That idiot son of mine! I can't forgive him causing you such pain.
My mother-in-law stood up for me, and she proposed a certain plan. I decided to go along with it. From then on, I was able to focus on raising our child. My husband seemed oblivious to the fact that I knew about his affair.
I'm sorry, Lauren. I have another business trip next week.
My husband explained it as usual. I couldn't help but find his attempts to deceive me comical. I had already lost my feelings for him. Pretending not to know anything, I played the role of a housewife. My husband seemed to notice that my attitude had become cold. But since he had an affair partner, he didn't make any effort to improve our relationship. And I was 6 months into this lifestyle. One day, he returned from a business trip. My husband finally took action. Hey, Sean. Who's that woman? To my surprise, my husband brought a woman with him when he returned from the trip. The woman had the same face as Hazel, the one in the evidence photo of the affair.
This is Hazel. We're in a relationship.
I pretended to be shocked on purpose. Then, it must be surprising for you to be suddenly confronted like this, right? And be introduced to a mistress. You must be shocked, aren't you? She had a smug expression on her face, thinking I was unable to speak due to shock. And my husband, without caring about me, and said,
She's pregnant. I'm gonna marry her. So, divorce me.
He brought his mistress to our home and said such things to me. Huh? Pregnant? Even I couldn't have imagined that she was pregnant.
Please understand. She needs me. She's still young and can't live on her own yet.
I knew from the investigation that she was still a college student. I felt a chill and disgust when I learned that my husband was having an affair with a student during his business trips.
You'll be fine, right? Our relationship was practically over anyway. So divorce me and leave soon.
My husband demanded it, as it were a matter of course. But I wouldn't let things go as they wished. Well, no. I'm not getting a divorce, you know.
Huh? What do you mean? You heard us, right? We're having an affair.
Normally, people would be furious and get a divorce, wouldn't they? Oh, did you think I would quietly step aside? Well, too bad things didn't go as planned. Anyway, I'm not getting a divorce. And of course, I'll be seeking compensation for the affair. It leaves a pretty bad impression that you are having an affair while we have an infant. The compensation is going to be quite high, I suppose.
You.
Oh, and Hazel, right? It doesn't matter if you were a student. The fact remains that you committed a crime. I'll be seeking compensation from you too.
No! That's something I can't afford.
Well, then you can have your parents cover it for you.
That's impossible. I haven't told my parents anything yet.
Is that so? Then I'll send a certified letter to your parents explain the situation. Also, just so you know, I was aware of your affair, and that my husband was practically living with you in your room. That can be a reason to increase the compensation. What you both have done is utterly despicable.
That's too much. You're horrible.
My condolences.
Damn it.
So, as I said, I'm not getting a divorce. But I will make sure to receive the compensation. After that, I'll leave this house and go back to my parents. But I won't get a divorce. Which means you two won't be able to get married.
This is unbelievable.
While watching the two of them turn pale, I burst into laughter. Oh, by the way, it was your mother who suggested this plan. When I told her about your affair, both your mother and father were furious. They said they no longer consider you their son and wanted to cut ties.
That's gotta be a lie.
Well, why don't you contact them and find out? I don't know they'll respond, but go ahead. What does this mean? We're not getting married. Do I have to raise the baby all by myself? Hazel seemed quite shaken. Maybe you'll have to bow your head to your own parents and ask for help with raising a child. That's impossible. They'll never forgive me, I'm sure. Well, that's your problem then. Anyway, that's how it is. I'll be going back to my parents. I started packing my belongings as I said that. My husband and his affair partner was sitting there, pale-faced and slumped. Afterwards, through my lawyer, I demanded compensation from my husband and his affair partner. Thanks to an excellent lawyer who assisted me, I received a good amount of compensation. As for my husband, news spread at his workplace that he impregnated a college student while leaving his newly born child and wife behind on fake business trips. However, he couldn't quit his job because he had to pay the hefty compensation, spousal support to me, and child support to his affair partner. He was also disowned by his parents and is currently living a lonely and harsh life, it seems. As for the affair partner, I don't know what happened to her. Since she's still a college student, she might make more mistakes, but I hope she reflects on herself and becomes a good mother. As for me, I've returned to my parents' house and started working as an office clerk in a small local company. I occasionally keep in touch with my in-laws and show them my daughter's face. I'm very grateful to my mother-in-law who suggested this plan. Seeing both the affair partner and my husband suffer the consequences, I'm thinking about getting a divorce and becoming a single mother. I believe I can raise my daughter well, even on my own. Just by being born into this world, my daughter is a strong child. I will trust in ourselves and move forward, living our lives together.